Hello everybody, my name is Tanner Kyler, and today I'm talking about one of the showiest flowers native to the majority of the United States. This is a wildflower. This is known as Wild Bergamot, or bee balm, Monarda fistulosa. This is an excellent wildflower to plant in the majority of the United States. It's extremely drought tolerant. It is in the mint family, or the Lamiaceae family. It has a really widespread range from northern Canada into southern Canada, all the way into eastern United States, over west into the Rockies, pretty much throughout the entire United States, even into parts of Mexico, excluding basically the states of Florida and California, and probably a few other areas here and there. I'll throw a range map up here to show you where this guy grows, but it is an excellent species for multiple different reasons. This guy thrives in open, dry woodlands, prairies, meadows, and ditches, roadsides. You'll find it kind of growing in anywhere where there's not too boggy of soils. It doesn't love boggy soils. It will die if it's saturated in water. This Oklahoma wind is not being my friend today, so we had to move to a separate location. This isn't quite as showy as a plant as what we started the video with, but we showed the one over there. We have several other clumps. These just aren't quite as old as the other ones. These are actually plugs taken from the separate plant. So like I was mentioning, they thrive in drier or semi-moist conditions. They need well-draining soil. If they live in boggy soils, they're gonna perish. They don't like that. They're extremely easy to propagate by actually, when they grow these stems out in the spring before they bloom, you can actually just pull a whole stem up. It'll pull a piece of root out. You can transplant that and it'll grow into a whole new clump as they spread vigorously through runners. Now these runners, let me make sure it's recording. Now these runners or rhizomes spread laterally through the soil out, and then it shoots up smaller propagules all over. So you'll start with one stem, next year you'll have this many stems, and then the next year you'll have 100 stems, and it spreads quite rapidly. It is excellent for soil stabilization. So in areas like this, and these restoration areas like I'm working on here, it is an excellent species to start with. It is stunningly beautiful with these lavender-like flowers. Each flower head will get dozens, if not hundreds, of flowers per head, and they are pollinator magnets. They appreciate full sun to part sun. This area is pretty much, this is part sun. They don't get morning sun, they get afternoon, so they get a little taller here. And when they get tall, they get pretty leggy, and that brings me to my next point. In garden beds, it definitely helps to do a Chelsea chop. Now the Chelsea chop is essentially, can be done on any tall perennial plant. As they grow up in the spring, here I'll do it in early May or late April. As the plant gets about this tall, I'm actually going to chop it halfway down, which will cause it to grow twice as many stems. It'll get a bushier appearance. It will bloom about 2 weeks later. Some of the ones I did Chelsea chops on this year haven't even bloomed yet, but the ones I didn't do it are blooming, so those are the ones we're using right now. But Chelsea chops definitely are recommended for areas around houses and backyards if it's going to get too tall and you don't like the leggy appearance, because it does like to flop over. Right here it's flopped over because, well, there isn't a lot of grass right here next to it. If we go to areas where there's more grass, it does better because it can push up and lean against that grass and not fall over. Because in the prairies, it would be fighting against other grasses this tall. And around here, the grasses will be that tall within a few years, but we're working on restoring our native grasses right in this particular area. It works great in restoration areas as it spreads rapidly, stabilizes soil, and offers a lot of pollinators a lot of food because it blooms for a good amount of time. Right here, some of them started blooming about 2 weeks ago. Well, right now we're in late June. So about mid-June, they'll start blooming here in Oklahoma at least. And then they'll continue blooming. It depends on the genetics and the heat and the sun they get. And if you did the Chelsea chop, and they can keep blooming all the way to the end of July. So these guys are really excellent for, midsummer poppy showy blooms. They work great in pollinator gardens as they support a ton of wildlife. So they are pollinator magnets. They serve a ton of different species, and I'm going to list some of those real quick. One of the main ones that I like to talk about is the servant bee. The servant bee only eats Monarda species. This being Monarda fistulosa, this is an excellent plant for those. They can only consume them, and that is one of their main goals, is to pollinate things in the Monarda family. So lemon bee balm, wild bergamot, and anything that's in the mint family, essentially. They cannot pollinate much else. These are excellent for bumblebees, which we've probably seen in this video already, servant bees, solitary bees, hummingbirds, monarchs, swallowtails, there's a bumblebee right there, long-tongued bees, wasps, fitularies, and many more species that I see all over. Right now there's these small beetles consuming on the flowers. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but they are here and they are existing because of these plants. So their height depends on a couple different variables, how much water they're consuming and how much sun they get. So in full sun, they get about 1 to 3 feet tall, and they're a lot more compact in windy, open, sunny, dry areas where they don't get as much water. Right here, we're near a creek, so they get a lot of water, so they get even taller. If there's a lot of water and they get part sun, similar to these conditions, they get anywhere between 3 and 5 feet tall. Now, 5 feet tall is normally rare, but it does happen right here because we have a lot of water, they get part sun, and the soil is extremely rich in nutrients being down here on a floodplain. And so they get a lot taller than they would in certain habitats, but I actually enjoy how tall they get as they tower above all the other grasses. They're extremely showy, they show off their flowers, and they attract a ton of pollinators, just bringing a lot of life and happiness to your garden. So they have some uses. You can make teas out of these guys. You can also eat the flowers themselves and the petals because they're in the mint family. There are no toxins in them, but they are rich in a substance called thymol. Thymol is used as an antiseptic that can help battle colds, flus, and digestive issues. So people do use this as a medicinal plant. The thymol in it is what gives it its really pleasant scent. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Its scent smells exactly like a mix of mint and marijuana. That's exactly what this thing smells like. So when you're smelling this plant, it has a really awesome fragrance to it. And when it's in bloom, you can smell it from a ways away. Its fragrance kind of throws out. But that fragrance is actually to deter a lot of pests. And so right now, whenever we're smelling all those terpenes and stuff like thymol, those terpenes are made to kill and deter insects from consuming this, but we find it as a very pleasant scent as humans. It is a larval host to several different species of butterfly. The larvae of certain species of moth use this to reproduce. I see a bug right there. I don't even know what that is. That's a cool looking bug. Those include the orange mint moth, the raspberry pyrausta, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, the hermit sphinx moth, the gray marble. Those are 4 of the species, and I'm sure there's more that use this as a host plant. And that essentially means that the butterflies can only lay their eggs on certain plants, and this is one of them that they can do so. Kind of like how the monarchs can only lay their babies on milkweed. But that's the bulk of the information, but I'm going to move around and kind of show you some of the other ones blooming because it's probably our most abundant wildflower, as it's so easy to propagate by simply taking one of these, pulling the whole stem up. If I were to yank this up right now, it would come off with a good clump of roots. I could walk 10 feet over there, dig a hole, stick it in the ground, give it a drink of water, and it would spread through the soil and would look like this next year. So they spread amazingly. They're an excellent species to get started, and I think it can be the showiest thing in your backyard for the majority of the summertime, and they look extremely beautiful. We're going to move back up over here where some of the larger ones are, just to kind of show off how beautiful they really can be, as these are not the most beautiful ones. There's also 2 more right over here I'll turn the camera to. See, there's quite a few of them growing, and if we turn this way, you can see there's some more growing right over there. They have their colors go from a light white color all the way into a deep lavender. Just look at those showy flowers right there. I'm going to zoom back out. So here's a clump right here that is only 2 years old. This one I planted last year, and it's had time to spread. And just look how beautiful it is. It's right here next to my peach tree, and my goal is to hope that the thymol in this is actually going to deter pests from my peaches. And so this does really well at shading the soil, and you can just see how magnificent their blooms are. This one's rather tall. It's about 3.5, 4 feet tall. Here's another one. They do really well without competing all the other plants around them, as they really are aggressive. They spread through these runners and they push out. Even when they flop over, though, they continue blooming. I've seen them snap and then just keep growing out from that snap stem. So they do well even if they break over. So if yours snaps over, don't chop it down and just say, oh, it's screwed for the year. It's not. It'll continue doing excellent. Here's my pollinator patch here. I just thought I'd show off all the sunflowers going off right now. But look at this. This is lemon mint. This is another Monarda species. It looks pretty similar, and this one's actually an annual, unlike the bee balm, which is a perennial, which can live, 10 to 20 years. This one only lives 1 year, but it reseeds heavily. Here's another clump growing right here, along with all these fall sunflowers. And that brings me to my last point here. It looks really beautiful, as yellow and purple are a nice color combo. So we got the yellow fall sunflowers going off right now. And then right next to it, we have this wild bergamot starting to go into bloom. And as you can see, it doesn't flop over as bad when it has a lot of support of other plants to push up against. So we're looking right here. This one looks excellent, looks very natural, and doesn't look so leggy like the other ones do. We have so many of these around here, and I really can't get enough of them. I'm going to continue spreading them around, and I probably will do more content on these guys in the future just because I love them so much. But if we look here, this one just looks so excellent here, and it's just starting to come into bloom. And the hummingbirds absolutely love these. There's also bee balm, which is another Monarda species. These are also called bee balm, but they look very similar. I'll throw a picture of those in there, but real bee balms are red to pink. These are lavender and will only be lavender. You won't find red and pink ones. They have those deep-throated flowers, so only certain species can pollinate them, like hummingbirds and long-tongued bees, bumblebees, things that have long proboscis to reach down to get into those. It also deters other pests. And then each and every single one of these small flowers here, show you guys this one right here. See how that's one flower right there? That'll turn into a seed. Not this one now, I pulled it out. But we're gonna show you up real close to show you those guys. There are those flowers up close. So the wind's not helping me at all today. Just look at those flowers there. Beautiful. We're gonna wrap this video up real quick to show how beautiful these are. These are some taller ones. They're about 4 feet tall. Pushing 5 feet in some of these areas. The ones that I did the Chelsea chop on, they still aren't blooming, but these are some I didn't do that on yet. But with that, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and you want to learn more about our native plants to North America. Every single dime that this channel ever makes will be put back into restoring nature, buying land, and protecting the natural world at all costs. That's all I care about on this channel. It's all I care about in life. I just want to protect the natural world for future generations. And the best way you can do that is to like, subscribe, and to turn on those notifications so you see that I'm posting and you can watch these videos, giving this channel more support. Please leave a comment if you have any questions or concerns with this video, as I try to reach out and comment on all your guys' comments, answer questions that I didn't get to in the video. I really try to communicate with you guys, engage with you guys, and let you know I'm there. And I'm all there for protecting nature and to answering questions. I love educating people on this kind of stuff. It's what I live for. So please do not hesitate to comment. I love answering those, and it makes me feel really good about myself and this channel whenever you guys reach out and comment. And with that, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.